Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Justice League, number 2 would be Thor Ragnarok, number 3 would be Daddy's Home 2, number 4 would be Murder on the Orient Express, and number 5 would be Wonder. And I actually got all of them incorrect except for the number 1 spot, which was very surprising to me because I thought for sure I'd get a few correct in there, at least the top 3 maybe, but no, only 1, and it's the obvious answer. So let's go over what happened. Number 1 was, of course, Justice League. Now, everyone kind of already knew that this movie was going to get to number 1, but I think what most people are curious about is how much did it actually make? Did it make more than Batman vs. Superman, less than that, more than Suicide Squad, or anything like that? This is actually the lowest opening weekend for a film in the DC Extended Universe. Yes, folks, even lower than the previous lowest opening weekend, which was for Wonder Woman. This movie not even opening over $100 million, opening at $94 million. Now, to someone outside of all the box office stuff, they'd probably just hear it and be like, yeah, that's a lot of money. But when you consider the fact that the reports are saying that this movie has a $300 million budget because of the reshoots and everything, and when you also look at the worldwide total and see that it's only at $279 million right now, and you recognize that it needs to make a lot more money to be considered a success at this point, that's saying something, man, that this movie really, no matter what you reshoot, no matter how much you course correct, a lot of people, word of mouth will get out there that maybe the movie is still a mess in a different way this time. I actually did see the movie, and I was going to make a review, but I couldn't do this box office video on Sunday, so I had to wait till now. The review is coming. I'll have more thoughts about Justice League, but seeing these numbers is kind of depressing because everyone remembers the shock of the first Avengers movie, and everyone kind of wants another Avengers type success with Justice League, and that's not happening unless more people go out to see it in its next few weeks and it like holds on very strong, but that's doubtful, especially because of the drops that the DC movies have had. So moving on to number 2, which was very surprising to me, Wonder, making $27 million, only on a budget of $20 million, so it's already over its production budget, and it's on its way to get to the doubling point of $40 million. I thought that this movie would just like kind of barely get into the top 5 considering the kind of subject matter, school bullying and all that, and also because the movie itself kind of seemed like just kind of another like Lifetime kind of movie. But no, this movie actually did pretty well for itself on this weekend, so I'm actually kind of surprised by that. It actually beat out number 3, which was Thor Ragnarok, making $21 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $247 million, and on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $739 million. I just think it's very odd that probably next weekend, Justice League will have a drop that might get it close to around the numbers that Thor Ragnarok had, like, this weekend, maybe a little above that. Maybe Thor Ragnarok and Justice League will have, like, roughly the same numbers next weekend. I mean, who really knows? It's just very curious to see how Thor, a movie about Thor and the Hulk, makes more money on its opening weekend and as a whole so far than Justice League will. That's just really surprising to me. But moving on to number 4, which is Daddy's Home 2, making $14 million, adding to a domestic total of $50 million. Oh, very close to its $69 million budget, but it still needs a lot more. Maybe eventually it'll get released worldwide and it'll add up to the numbers that I'm seeing, but so far it's not looking too good for the sequel. Maybe they shouldn't have made it instead of trying to cash grab on that first one, which was really only a surprise because it opened around the same time The Force Awakens did, and a lot of people were shut out of the screenings because, oh, it's sold out, let's just go see Daddy's Home. Moving on to number 5, which is Murder on the Orient Express, doing pretty well for itself, making $13 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $51 million, and on the worldwide chart it is sitting at $148 million. So that is $38 million over its doubling point budget-wise, and that is very good. This movie is a success. It's not a flop like Daddy's Home 2 so far is, or potentially Justice League right now. So that's very good for this film, and even though a lot of people were mixed on it, I'm still glad that people went out to see it and it actually did get its budget back because I had a fun time with it. Number 6, another Sony Pictures animated film that doesn't look like it's going to make enough money that it deserves because all their movies are masterpieces, you know, that being The Star. This movie, unfortunately, made a little bit less than the Emoji Movie, making $9 million this weekend, nowhere close to the amount the Emoji Movie opened with, or will ever get close to that, in fact. And even considering the budget is only $20 million, like, it's not even gonna get to that probably, because this movie is like just kind of there and it's kind of just in the way and people are just kind of waiting for Coco. It's honestly it's kind of sad that Sony Pictures always gets treated this way, you know, because they're so amazing. But moving on to number 7, which is A Bad Mom's Christmas, making $7 million, adding to a domestic total of $51 million, and on the worldwide chart it is sitting at $77 million. Good job, Bad Mom's Christmas. Even though you didn't open around Christmas time, which might have gotten more people into the theater, you still doubled your $28 million budget, maybe triple it very soon, and even though it wasn't the same amount of money as the first movie, I mean, you still made money. You might make a third Bad Moms if you really wanted to. Hooray! Number 8 is Lady Bird, which actually I talked about last weekend. It was at number 10, I believe, and it actually expanded into more theaters, which, hey, that's pretty good. I've been hearing great things about it. I know a little bit more about the movie this time, so I mean, there's that. It made $2 million this weekend. That adds to a domestic total of $4 million. Now, it has a budget of $10 million. It still needs to get to around $20 or so million to be considered a success. But I think because of the kind of praise it's been getting, it might have a really good chance of getting out there more. You know what I mean? Moving on to number 9, another movie that maybe will have a chance someday. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, making $1.1 million this weekend. It was out in a couple places, but not enough to get it over $1 million. Now it is over $1 million. I'm not sure what the budget is so far. Maybe they'll release it if this movie expands to other places, because I've also heard a lot of great things about this movie, and considering this from the director of 7 Psychopaths, this is obviously a movie that I can't miss because I love that movie and I want to see this one. Hopefully it expands to other places. And closing out the top 10 is Jigsaw, making $1.08 million, adding to a domestic total of $36 million, and on the worldwide chart it is sitting at $81 million. Wasn't able to get to $100 million worldwide, but I mean, it's still like made 8 times more than its $10 million budget, so I mean, is there really much room to complain for them? Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Obviously, number 1, I think, will be Justice League. I think they'll maybe hold out one more time in the number 1 spot, but then I think number 2 will be Coco, then number 3, Wonder, number 4, Thor Ragnarok, and number 5, Daddy's Home 2. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave it in the comments below, and if you got your predictions right for this week, you're going to get a shout out right now. Unless you didn't get it right, then I'm sorry. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.